Well, hey YouTube. Welcome back to Peteys Peds. I'm Petey, and these are my peds. So today we're going to be doing Zvex Woolly Mammoth. This is my clone of the Woolly Mammoth. The Woolly Mammoth is a well-renowned, it's a wonderful circuit used typically for bass guitar, but it functions just as well with a 6-string guitar. Now, taking a look, here we have a picture of a hand-painted unit. It's a 4-knob affair. It's a silicon fuzz, so it's a positive ground is what we call that, or Boss standard powering. It's $379 for a hand-painted lifetime warranty. Colors and details may vary, and we see here this hand-painted unit has, they took the time to frost the letters. Isn't that cute? And yeah, it's going to be cold because you're going to not be able to afford to pay your heat bill or your rent with this $379 price tag for a 4-knob fuzz. Now, fret not, taking a look over at the Vexter series, if you can't afford to drink directly from the blood of the master, you can pay a mere penance of $259 for a screen printed version of the Vexter series, lower priced silk screened art, but the parts inside the Vexters are identical to the hand painted models. So it's designed for bass, a favorite for guitar, incredibly sub-frequency preserving unit, will hold on to the lowest of lows like no fuzz ever heard before. It features a gentle gate for silencing your instrument between notes or phrases, and has an EQ control that smoothly selects between more bass and treble. Now, this is where I'm going to veer off and talk a little theory with you guys. My personal experience with this circuit, I was excited about it because I always felt like fuzz bass or distorted bass was kind of a difficult effect to pull off in a live setting. And that's because when you fuzz a bass, when you distort the signal, something happens where the low frequencies don't seem to translate, I should say. And this is where having a blend knob to blend through some of the clean signal works wonders for me. Now, this is also to consider if you're in a punk band or a noise band and you're going to be having fuzz or distortion on the bass throughout the entire performance. You wouldn't run into this issue because then you're going to have it's never going to be like, oh, he switched over to clean and there's all this extra low end that we don't normally hear. And that's the problem that I had. Now, the way that I set my bass, I don't play a mid-range, I play a bass, and that's reflected in my EQ curve. I crank the bass, I kill the mids, and there's treble. But reducing the mid it's a little bit more pleasant to give the guitar some room in the frequency spectrum. But like I said, you listen to some recordings, especially as you go back in time, the bass is less pronounced. I mean, they just didn't have the high performance speakers, high performance type of amplifiers directed for bass. They were playing bass through 12-inch speakers up until we started really developing this stuff and getting awesome gear that could produce these unbelievably low frequencies. So if you're the type of person that really leans towards that type of an EQ curve, keep in mind running something like a distortion on your bass is going to affect the way that your tone is perceived. And for me, I was never able to get over that. I always had to use a clean blend, so it was like my real low end was coming through clean, and then the mid-range and the highs were what was distorted. And that's how it always felt like whenever I used a clean blend, and that made sense and sounds good to me as well. So that's just the way that I do it, and certainly everyone's different, so don't go out telling people, oh, well, Petey said that the Woolly Mammoth sucks and it's all treble. You have to really try this stuff for yourself to see, because there's all kinds of different variables. And number 1 and 2, the two largest variables are active pickups or not. A lot of people say this circuit doesn't do well with active pickups. A lot of people say this circuit does best with a single coil pickup being first in the chain. And that's a truth when it comes to PNP germanium fuzzes. Now this is an NPN silicon fuzz, and that means the type of transistors it uses. But still some truth may be found in that. And again, with all this stuff, you don't want to take everything you hear on the internet or in some forum as truth. You want to generally, your mileage may vary, and go by that law of I need to test this out and see what works for me. So that's an important factor. And I should also tell you that for the most part, we use a multi-effect for the bass live, and we have built custom patches that use overdrive and distortion that blend in some clean. And that's the way that we do it for the most part. But I have a paralooper pedal, and that has a clean channel and basically what it is you look at it like this. There's an input cable that goes to your bass, there's an output that goes to the amp, and then there's another pair, a send and return, that go to this pedal. And then on the controls, there's two knobs. One knob controls the volume of the clean sound going through the straight signal. One knob controls the level that you're going to get of this. So you set it for about half and half, or swing it over heavier on the fuzz side or on the clean side, depending on your liking. And that worked really well for me in the indoor situation where we were running large headphones, like 50 millimeter diameter drivers. Okay, so again, this is not miking an amp. This is a different thing. It's using modeling, so your mileage may vary. Don't take what I say as law. So taking a look over at some text that I copied from a guy named Fred Briggs, has a pedal site called La Révolution Du, which is French, D-U-E-X. The Zvex Woolly Mammoth is a bass fuzz pedal designed by the boutique virtuoso Zachary Vex. I have to stop there, it's incorrect. Zachary Vex did not design this pedal. It's been in this product line for many years and has been proven popular for both guitarists and bass players alike. The description from the Zvex website says sensitive and touchy, and that means depending on how hard you pick, it affects the amount of distortion you get. This bass fuzz has tremendous bottom end and a beautiful harmonic structure that sounds blistering with your guitar as well. The harmonic structure can be altered radically using the pinch knob. Now, that pinch knob adjusts the pulse width of the waveform. And in the leftmost position, the wave shape is quite symmetrical, which produces a smooth, creamy, traditional sound. Tuning it up slightly introduces a lovely intermodulation distortion. Tuning it clockwise narrows the wave shape into symmetrical pulses, making the tone reedier and brassier. This also introduces a smooth gating action, which gives you an absolutely eerie silence between notes. When we started using these fuzz pedals, you would notice, especially with a single coil pickup, there would be a lot of hum and buzz coming out of the amp when you weren't playing. So if you watch pro players, they will instinctively have this pinky knob that wraps down around the volume control, and immediately when they're done playing, they will turn down their volume. When they begin playing again, they turn it back up. This led us, as we're lazy, engineers designed us what's called a noise gate, and that's another pedal effect that sits after your fuzz effect, and you set this sensitivity or the gate comes up and it shuts off the connection. There's no noise. Where that buzz and hum was coming through, this just shuts it off, disconnects it, until we go to pick a note and it's listening, and when you go to pick, it opens the gate and then the noise can come through. So you could think of this pedal having a rudimentary gate built in, and that's connected to this pinch knob. So when you set it all the way down, it's more traditional and open sounding. The more you turn it up, the more gated it gets, and that affects the waveform, where it gets more square wavy and weird. They're calling that brassier and reedier. Some people call that Velcro fuzz. Some people call it zipper, some people call it Nintendo or 8-bit. It's all different words for the same thing. At almost all settings, you will notice that your low frequency is preserved. The circuit has a frequency response that continues several octaves below audibility. The subs will knock everything off your amp, so put the bottles on the floor, no kidding. The wool knob adjusts the amount of fur for the note. That's like the fuzz control. The EQ knob tilts the spectral response. Tuning it to the left adds lows and softens the highs. Tuning it to the right, treble. And actually, this EQ is a big muff style tone control. So, in our effort to be friendly towards the earth, no animals were hurt designing the pedal. The circuit designed by Chuck Zwicky draws less than 1/2 of a milliampere. So that's 0.0004 amps. So you can put a battery in the sucker and it'll last a long time. But here's a little bass demo action. I just wanted to say that, you know, it depends on the pickups you're using, the bass, whether you're using the neck, the treble pickup, are you rolling the tone down? Is it an active pickup? All kinds of different things. When I say active pickup, yeah, I used an active pickup on this, but I ran a pickup simulator on the input, which is a transformer that decouples the active so that this thing sees the load of a single coil pickup. Now, I found I could run this thing on anything and it always sounded about the same. Other people have different claims. I found out today that you're really supposed to gain these transistors. There's 2 actives in this. There are 2 M3904 silicon transistors, and I wasn't aware. I just slapped some transistors in it and went away. I went to have my fun. I find out you're supposed to put a low gain one in Q1, which is something around 150 HFE, and then a medium gain or 200 HFE in Q2, and then the circuit will operate properly. So maybe that was why I felt that it was cutting some lows. I'm going to have to rebuild this with proper transistors, which is just a question of just pulling them out. They're in sockets. I can just pop it out and then use a transistor tester to measure the HFE. My point is, it's such a versatile pedal. I felt every demo was pigeonholed towards one trick. This does this Muse sound that this band Muse uses, and it does traditional, which the Muse sound is more gated. So I'll just give you a spectrum of some different demos, and go ahead and check them out. Give these guys some love for their contribution in the real world. You know, check them out. Check out their demos and comment and share and like for them as well.
This is a woolly mammoth. It's a bass fuzz, which sounds great on guitar too. First, let's hear a little bit of bass through it. Without the woolly mammoth, and with. The pinch knob, if we turn it back, you'll hear it picks up noise. It's kind of like a gate control. With it up, things go silent if you mute the strings. Now, we should listen to it with guitar. But before that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the origin of the woolly mammoth. I didn't design it. It was designed by Chuck Zwicky. As you can see right here, upside down, it says designed by Chuck Zwicky, who's a fabulous producer engineer living in New York right now. The woolly mammoth does sound great with guitar, and I'm going to turn the knobs around a little bit while Eric is playing some stuff on guitar. Go ahead, Eric.
taking a look, here is a big point here about the transistors. Remember the HFE? Well, yeah, there's quite a bit of discussion on Free Stomp Box's topic. Free Stomp Boxes is a forum where a lot of magic happens at that place. And it's tied in with tag board effects, which is going to be where we're going to be seeing the Vero layouts. So here's, this guy said it was expensive, and then the price went down. So he got a Vexter unit, and he said it's really awesome sounds. Plug it in before your tuner as it doesn't like buffers. Some say active bass sounds bad. It may depend on the bass, but with Fender or Music Band it sounded good for what I needed. It's a great fuzz tone, he says. My only complaint is where the power jack is located. And generally you're going to see that. You're going to see people glowing about this pedal because typically the other fuzzes reduce the low end even more. And you can see that in the design. You can see how he designed it specifically to let the low end pass. So taking a look at this layout here, we can see that it's a 4-knob fuzz with a 2K. So that's going to be the only kind of oddball, like you wouldn't be able to find that at Radio Shack. It's a pretty simple design, lower parts count. You can see there's a few different layouts. Here's a verified one called Fuzzy Elephant. On a little bit, it seems like there's a lot of extra space on that layout, doesn't there? This is a lot more compact, so it's very easily available transistors. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 resistors and 6 capacitors, a pair of 100 UFs, a pair of 220 microfarad, and a pair of 10s. He's using a different type here because it's two spaced, so he's using a ceramic there. And it's worth noting that from what my research could tell me, you want something around 150 HFE for Q1, and Q2 would be 200 HFE. And especially Q1 is the really important one, working in conjunction with the pinch control. And that's what the wave shaper that enables the gate. So I would say ideally you're really going to want to spend the time to find the proper HFE transistor, especially for Q1. And let's say the best you could do is 180. Like just pick the lowest number you can get that's closest to 150. In my unit, I had a 360 and a 384, and it was functioning. But I'm really anxious to put in the proper transistors and hear the difference. I'll be able to A/B that at that point. So taking a look here, one link, that's the jumper wire that you install on 4 track cuts. So right now we're using software called Irfan View to take a look at this. I'm going to show you a trick. I'm going to hit the letter H as a hotkey, and that's going to invert that. So when you're doing my track cuts, those are on the bottom, on the copper side. So you need to turn it over, right? Well here, oh, there, I just turned it over by hitting H. So that's what I like to do, is use that H as I'm going along and when I need to do my track cuts. And then I'll hit H back again when it's time to do the links. So yeah, that 2K pod is the oddball. The 500K and the 10K are much more readily available, although it's not that hard pod to find. You can get that pod from Tata. And they're all linear or B. The audio ones, the A ones, are logarithmic, while linear is the B. And then taking a look at the circuit here. Does it look familiar? Well, it should, because it's a modified fuzz face is what this is. You can see similarities on the input capacitor, this resistor, pull down resistor that's on the base and collector of Q1. Also we see 33 and 8.2. Well, these resistors are going to be different because it's a completely different type of transistor. These are PNP germaniums and these are silicon NPNs. So you can see the difference in the way the arrow's going on the transistor as well. But you can see where he's added this pinch control, the wool. The output is basically the same. It's pot on the output, but this stuff in here is all a little different. So you can see different here, the EQ, this RC network or resistor capacitor forms the filter that throws that to ground. And this is the this whole section here is the big muff style tone control. And it's interesting because of the extra gain on these silicon transistors. We don't need a recovery stage. Normally when you add a tone control to a circuit that doesn't have one, it reduces the output so much that you have to put a third transistor behind it. In this case, we don't need that. But there's all kinds of similarities in here telling you that, yeah, he started with a fuzz face and modified the crap out of it. And that's what Anthony Zvex did. He's famous for his first real famous pedal was called a Fuzz Factory. And that was a fuzz face where he removed all the resistors and substituted in potentiometers to make those adjustable. And how Zvex got popular, there was a like a guitar player or premier guitar type of magazine, a print magazine way back in the day, and they sent one of their guys out on the road for 6 months with a band that toured the United States to ride along. And part of their whole thing, they had gotten all Zvex pedals that were custom. And this guy wrote about all that, going to meet Zvex, him giving them these pedals, them using them on the road, and how they had their own unique sound. The band sounded different than everybody else because they weren't using Boss or Ibanez pedals. So that article, that one article, kickstarted it, launched Anthony Zvex's career into a national thing, where he was one of the first boutique guys. Him, Devi Ever, I believe. There was just a few people that initially started doing this. And now it's huge. There's thousands of companies, literally hundreds of companies coming out each, sometimes day. It's ridiculous. Here's another cut down. This is it's a smaller version. We got 14 by 9. Let's see how much. 13 by 9. So it's one row less. And also, this has only 2 pots. And there is a capacitor switch on the input. And what that does, when your signal comes in, throwing a different capacitor will change the frequency response. So it changes how it fuzzes and what it sounds like. So with a larger size capacitor, you're going to have more bass going through, and a smaller size, less. So this mod almost seems like it would be if you had it running on the 22N side, it would be for guitar, and the 220N it would be more for bass. Could be, who knows. Here we see the Zvex Mastotron, which is another pedal that Zvex released. It's basically a woolly mammoth that has another pot, another control, which is on the input, and that could be like a pre-gain control. That's really going to control how much it fuzzes. They have this labeled volume, but it's really, I don't know, input volume and the way that acts on a fuzz, if you know, it almost acts like a gain control. And then there's another one of these 33 versus 100 UF capacitor switch, bass versus guitar switch, and that would really affect the sound of the fuzz, because you only have so much gain. The transistor's only going to do so much work, and it really affects what you end up with, what you send in. And a lot of people like to clean up the sound of the fuzz, making it sound more natural or creamy or traditional by throttling that low frequencies down using a lower value input cap, where this gives you an option, which is really neat. So that's the end of my information that I put together on this fuzz. Let's see, I've got another folder, ZZ. I can show you this. This is the tester that I ordered. I got a bag of 50 germanium transistors. I'm going to be building a pair of Spaceman Effects Sputnik 2 clones, which is it's a fuzz that has a decoupling stage on the input transformer, and so it should sound good with whatever guitar you run it on. And it's a self-oscillating. It's just a wonderful fuzz that has a lot of features, switches, and controls, and it does a real lot. It's a germanium fuzz. It sounds fantastic. They just had one on. There was two that were on reverb. One went for $1,800, another was $2,100, and there's a clone for $350. So this here cost me about $20, and you're able to just throw a transistor in. So you can see they're showing a BJT PNP, which is a germanium transistor, reverse polarity, and it's measuring the HFE as well as the leakage with the IC, I believe. So that's going to be neat. I'm going to be able to test the bulk transistors I received. I got a shipment of germanium transistors here, and they were in a narrow Ziploc bag. I put that in another Ziploc bag and put that in this mailer that I had got from Tata. It's full of other electronic components. I got all kinds of parts in here. Old Radio Shack stuff. And when those parts came in, my wife had handed them to me, and I went through them, inspected them, and put them in the envelope. Now, a lot of times my wife will come home and give me a bag of these treats, and I'll open these up, and I put them in this treat container as a swivel lid, or I'll put them in this salt and pepper shaker to keep them, have something I can shake if I want him to come. Let's say I'm cold or I'm lonely, and I want him to come, I'll shake this, and he might come, and then I can pick him up and hold him. And when he sees stuff come in, often he thinks it's treats. Stuff will come in like in the mail, it'll be eBay, it'll be parts. So the one time he went through a bag and grabbed a potentiometer and some wire and a LED and put that on the ground. And we were joking around that he was, building circuits. Well, he got into the germaniums, and I'll show you the picture of what that ended up looking like. Here on the floor, as you can see, is part of my stash of my germanium transistors. And there he is, the demon. There's his arm of his little monkey. He got into my germaniums. They were in a double bag inside that mailer. And this is over here. Where they ended up is over there like 15 feet away. He ripped open a double bag and spread them all over the floor and was rolling around in them, frolicking and sniffing them. My wife caught him. So the germanium thief, the sneak, the semiconductor thief, Kita, what a demon. All right, you guys, I'll give you one more look at this little demon. Look at him. Not cute or innocent at all. He's just a demon. Look at him. He's coming for your active parts, your germanium transistors. He's coming to get them. The little demon. All right, you guys. Thanks for joining me for Peteys Peds. There's going to be more of these. Please comment, like, and share. Keep this one going. And I appreciate all of the comments you guys give me. So enjoy the episode. If you have any questions or anything like that, or anything I forgot to put, link in the description, please let me know. And look forward to another episode.
Hey there, buddy. What's that sound? Hey there, buddy. What's that smell? It's Peteys Peds.